now that we're getting closer to the game, Vish, give me your breakdown of how you see this thing. And let's start with the 49ers on the defensive side of the ball, because I think that's where, I mean, they're going to be challenged on both sides of the ball, let's be honest. But I think on the defensive side, you're going against Mahomes and you're going against Reed. And Mahomes is 3-0 against the Niners. And
Mm-hmm.
Andy Reid kind of almost felt like he was mocking Kyle the last time the Chiefs and Niners played, with some of the things he did with McCole Hardman on the goal line.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Let's talk Niners defense, Chiefs offense. Give me some thoughts. I want to share some thoughts with you as well. I watched that Ravens Chiefs game, and I had some things that I took away. But if you're talking, Steve Wilks, Andy Reid, that little mental chess match, what do you give me your evaluation or your breakdown on it?
Yeah, if I'm Steve Wilks, and I love two things about it. One, I love that he came out this week and questioned his defense's effort and
Yeah.
said that they can't play with this kind of effort, right? And I like it for two reasons. One, Krug, if the 49ers had lost in the NFC Championship game, who would have been the scapegoat? The guy who they made the martyr week 7, right? The guy who had to give a public apology to the media 5 days after he made a call. That's the guy that would have been the martyr. And I love how he switched the narrative immediately onto his players. He didn't blame his players, but he said, don't look at me. There's a lot of talented players and we need to play better. So one, I love that smart switch up. And then two, that's what I'm telling them right now. I'm telling Nick Bosa. I'm telling Chase Young. I'm telling Javon Hargrave, you got $42 million fully guaranteed. Nick Allegretti is going to be right there in front of you. Justin Matabuke had a good second half against Nick Allegretti. Like, I'm telling Javon Hargrave, it's time to get going. I'm telling this defensive line, you got to go win the game for me. And then the other thing I'm doing, and I wanted to find the quote for you. I couldn't find it right here as I was talking. There's a good Mike McDonald quote from this morning in his introductory presser. And it's just him talking about how defenses need to dictate to offenses. The modern NFL offenses are too good, and you need to dictate to them a little bit. And I think that's the key to the game for the 49ers. They can't sit back and play soft early in the game and line up and play quarters coverage the way they did against Detroit and the way they did against Green Bay for a little bit in the first half. They'll get chewed up, like you said, by Andy Reid. It'll look a lot like the game in 2021 where they're just going up and down the field. They got to be aggressive and they got to take some chances early in the game on calls. And Krug, for me, it's the same topic from the two of us from last week, right? We're talking about the Niners having to hit them in the mouth early, the Niners having to start fast, the Niners having to flip the game script on a team that's so reliant on the game script going a particular way. I think it starts from this particular matchup, and I think Steve Wilks, who's taken some more exotic pressures in the second half where he's lined up guys at the line of scrimmage, had some sim pressures where the quarterback gets confused on who's coming, who's dropping. They had a couple of really nice Tampa 2 rotations where it looks like they're playing 3 deep. And then you go invert Tampa 2 and the safety drops down and plays the middle read player. So they have stuff like that in the bag. They got to empty it right now. And I'm telling that defensive line, go win the game for me. This is the game, Krug. Chase Young, Randy Gregory, these guys were all brought in where you look at Jawan Taylor, you look at Donovan Smith, you look at Nick Allegretti, and you say go win the game for them.
I agree. I agree. What I love about this game is the fact that, Chase Young has been kind of called out, and I get the feeling they're going to get a great performance or great effort out of Chase, and I'll take my chances. If you can give me a 49er D line that was in the crosshairs this week, felt the pressure, felt the scorn of their fans and the public, felt probably the scorn of John Lynch and Steve Wilks. If you listen to Wilks and Lynch this week, Lynch vowing that he'd be shocked if he saw it again. I'll take my chances with the Niners going full bore. I really will. But when I watched the KC Baltimore game, Vish, there were several parts of that made me nervous. Okay, one of the parts that makes me nervous is that the Chiefs are a totally different team than they were 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks ago, Mahomes was taking chances with the ball. They were running it around to weapons that were ineffective. Now they're going to Kelsey. They're going to, Rashee Rice. They're going to run it with Pacheco. Against the Ravens, they came out in the first quarter and just went exclusively quick game. Everything was quick. Nothing. They didn't give Clowney or Owe or Matabuke or anybody any chance to go hunt quarterbacks. The ball came out super quick. Hot routes to Kelsey, little stop routes to Rashee Rice, little turnaround route right in the middle of the field to Pacheco. Just the quick game. And then with the Niners and their struggles against the run, I think they're for sure going to get the quick game and a combination of Isaiah Pacheco running. And I think the Chiefs right now are just like, they're not trying to make any stylistic, no, they're like, I feel like sometimes Kyle is like, let me show you how awesome this play design can be. I feel like Reed at this point is like, hey, look, we're just going to do the short game and Pacheco, and we'll just hand it to Patrick on third down and let him, convert thirds with his legs. And we're not going to take any chances. We're not going to drop 5 steps. We're not going to drop 7 steps. We're not going to give opposing pass rushers any chance to sack us. And then we're going to lean on in the second half a defense. I mean, the Chiefs have 2 stats that really jumped out to me, Vish. They have scored on their first possession 8 straight games. And in this game against Baltimore, Mahomes started 11 for 11, all with the short game, all with the quick game. And then also, Kansas City's defense is allowing only 7 points per game in the second half, I believe, in these playoffs. So they're just, let's get ahead. Let's not take any chances. I don't care if it looks good. I don't care if it looks impressive. And we'll just move the ball down the field. We'll lean on Mahomes. We'll get a little bit of a lead, and then we'll throw it to our killer defense and roll the dice if that's good enough. If the Niners can solve, first of all, I think Niner fans want to see Bosa and Chase Young beating these tackles because we know that's their advantage. But the Niners, before they even get to that chapter of the story, are going to have to take away Pacheco and the short, quick game. And if they don't, there's no guarantee that Andy Reid will ever drop Mahomes 5 or 7 steps into the pocket and give Bosa a chance to beat Jawan Taylor. I think if they Niners can't stop Pacheco and if they can't stop the quick game, it's all they're going to get.
Aggressive doing it, right? Because there's that great clip from the quarterback series of Mahomes talking about the Niners defense in 2021 and saying, you're going to play that aggressive against me? I watch film. And then they go back the next drive and hit a shot play up top to Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So you can't be too aggressive either. But look, Larry, I don't think this offense is just that good, frankly. Like, I think this offense has gone through its struggles this year. And now, like you said, it's not that they're not doing anything crazy creative schematically. They're still very sound. They're just now winning the games by putting their players in the best position, right? They're simplifying the variables. They're not giving the ball to players that may lose them games, right? Like Tony lost them games at the beginning of the year. Valdez-Scantling had an ugly drop versus the Eagles. Now these guys, Valdez-Scantling has made some key catches, but he's not participated in these games. It's been all Rashee Rice. It's been all Travis Kelce, like you mentioned. It's been all Isaiah Pacheco. It's been all Mahomes. And that's where I think that if you look the early start against Baltimore, you talked about them going quick game and all of that, but they didn't get thrown off of their script, right? They weren't put in an early situation where you can't not just throw the ball to these guys. And you have to make Mahomes play from behind and throw the ball to Tony or throw the ball to Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And I think that's what the Niners need to create in this game. Because you're right, if you let the Chiefs play their game, and that's what Baltimore did, right? Baltimore's defense played very well in the second half, and Baltimore never felt close in that football game because the Chiefs were always ahead. The Chiefs always felt like they were in control, and then the Chiefs' defense is very good. If you let them do that, the Niners are going to struggle in that kind of matchup while having a more talented team than the Chiefs. Baltimore had that same issue, and that's where you have to change the game script on them. The Raiders game earlier in the season is a good example, right? Just grind it out, stick with the run. They hit some explosive runs later in the game, but they grinded it out for the early part of that game. They gave them issues. Yeah, I did see Randall Riley, by the way. I did see you mention the 0 points. I waited to mention it just for you in the chat. But you're a little preemptive with the points, not letting me go here. Okay. But the thing with the Raiders game is if you go back and watch that game, Krug, they kind of grinded it out and held a lead on them. They kept running the football and they held a lead on them. And eventually even Mahomes as good as he is and as good as he's been coming back, this team is just not equipped to do that, Krug. Those tackles really struggle to when you're rushing the passer. This is a game you got to look at Nick Allergetti and say, Javon Hargrave, I need one. We gave you this contract for this one game. Go dominate this game. It's time. Go dominate this game. And that's what they need to do, Krug. They need to flip the game script on them. They need to force Valdez-Scantling and Kadarius Toney, if he ends up playing, they need to force these guys to be a part of the game. Nick Allergetti, because the Chiefs schematically will protect these guys with the game script if you allow it to happen. And that's kind of what Baltimore did. And as impressive as the Baltimore defense was in the second half, everybody was like, oh, this is so impressive. The Chiefs were in complete control. It felt like the Chiefs, when they needed to, they were going to be able to score or get the first down to stay ahead. And that's what they ultimately did to Valdez-Scantling.